Oh, okay. Good morning, everyone. Um, we had a great discussion yesterday in understanding the verse of scripture that most of us are familiar with. The scripture talks about loving the Lord our God with our heart, soul, and all of our might. That's Deuteronomy 5. Are there any questions about that? Okay. Well, if there aren't any questions about that, then we are going to go forward looking at something else in relationship to that. As I've asked in the past, if you have been shown something, send me a text or give me a call, and that's what we deal with. That's what we talk about. And one um, is something in regards to love, or what would we rather about um, the meaning of love and the power of love. And I'm going to ask him if he would begin the discussion on that, because at some point I do have something I would like to add. So, Ron, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I was looking at something in the Hidden Gospel, and again, as Pastor said, this is a continuation from what we talked about yesterday, from two aspects actually, from the aspect of further discussing love, and from the aspect of we mentioned yesterday about some of those voices inside of you and the struggles that those cause. And I want to visit that again in this discussion a little bit, because it ties in with yesterday's discussion and our discussion on good and evil. I was looking at something in the Hidden Gospel, and as all of you know, a lot of what I talk about has to do with my struggles or trying to come to a better place of understanding on something that we may have talked about. He mentioned, I'm going to talk about this, mention this one verse, and I just want to pull one word out, and that's the word mercy. But in the Matthew chapter 5, verse 7 said, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." The word mercy there is talking about a complete and universal type of love. It is talking about a love that radiates from the inside out, and part of that made me think about something we have in our Western way of thinking, come to think of love as the being led anyway by our feelings and emotions. And so,
Excuse me, Ron. Could you mute your phone, please?
thank you. So when you're feeling emotions, when our feelings and emotions wane a bit, it makes us question whether or not we feel the same way about an individual or not. So, but this type of love is a bit different. This is kind of the inclusive thing that we have been searching for inwardly, and what we were discussing yesterday. This love comes from the same root. Mercy comes from the same root that means womb, WOMB. and it's talking about a strong desire to see become more universal in your thinking, in your thoughts, and your emotions. Can I ask you to mute the phones, please? Okay, thank you. Being more complete in our thinking. For example, this is talking about a type of love that a mother-child might have together, right? She, as this pregnancy goes on and as this being is growing in her, she moves to a different place. She goes through a transformation, and she is no longer just an individual or see herself as something more now, because this life is taking form in her. So she moves to a place of she without even giving thought to it, her commitment takes her to a place of caregiver, as a protector, as nurturer, as someone who is just giving unconditionally of yourself. So this is the type of love that we're talking about. It's coming from the womb. It's coming from that dark place inside of you that is life-giving, that you may not be familiar with. It is a new thing in you that develops, and that radiant light that you see come from that is the wisdom that is attached to that. So what am I saying? I'm saying that the I becomes and sees further and closer to the I am. You see that I am not just an individual, and as I welcome and see the universe and pull that light together inside of me, I start to go through that type of transformation. So being blessed, or I'm finding balance, finding my own balance is helping me or aiding me to bring a balance to the universe. And I do that by balancing myself and bringing that light to bringing the fullness of that light, letting it shine inside of me, also radiate outside of me. So I'm not only changing who I am, I'm changing my community. And I mean that literally inside and out. So I mentioned we were talking yesterday, and I mentioned this morning about those aspects of self that sometimes don't always seem in agreement with or you walking in a place of light or trying to go in a certain direction. But what this type of love says to us is that it all has its purpose. So those voices that don't always line up, those you don't fight against them. You don't try to push them aside. You embrace them. And you recognize that every aspect of your being is there to move you to a place of enlightenment, to move you to a place of seeing that you are not a person with a soul, but that you are a soul. And not only are you a soul, you are the soul. You are the soul of the universe. So the love that I feel, the compassion that I feel, all those little dark areas in me have a place because they move me to a place of enlightenment. As I embrace them, as I examine them and get closer to them and see what they are and why, examine them as to why I feel a certain way, I recognize that I and I only have the capacity to move these dark places to enlightenment. All evilness has the capacity to be light. So that is part of that. Any questions so far before we go on? Any questions or comments? Okay. So and looking at that and understanding that when I understand this and when it comes about, as I mentioned before, our lack of understanding teaches us that love is based on feelings and emotions. And if I stop feeling a certain way about you, then I question whether or not that love is still there. But what this says is that my commitment, my attaching to you, my understanding of self and moving to that place where there is no there is no questioning anymore whether or not I'm committed to this, and I don't let those dark portions pull me aside or bring me down and make me feel like giving up or saying I can love this but I can't love that. When I move to a place where I see that all of it has its purpose and all of it has a place and all of it has a desire, not only just to be that it is darkness, but it has a desire to be light, that I am the one to see that be the greater I am to bring it into enlightenment. So in that regard, the love that we are talking about today and that we talked about on yesterday, that love, that expression of care, that expression of desire to be one with you, that expression of being your protector and your nourisher is what leads me to my feelings and emotions. It is not my feelings and emotions that guide me. So I become more expressive as I understand self. I become more expressive as I understand my role in your life, my role in the community, my role in the universe. Anybody want to add to that or help me out, or questions or comments?
Yeah,
please?
I do.
Okay.
What I'm hearing is this, and when you search inside of you in the midst of that the darkness and that has the potential to become light, what you actually are searching for is yourself. And when you find yourself, it is at that point that you also find love, which means that when you know yourself, you know that you are love. And this is far deeper than
Hello?
emotions change.
Pastor, hold on one second. This is far deeper
than emotion.
Can I get you, Pastor? I'm gonna get you to back up for me. You said, I'm gonna get you to back up. You're cutting out. You say this is far deeper, and then you cut out. Start from that point, if you don't mind, please.
Okay.
Yeah,
what about now?
Yes.
Okay.
Much better.
Okay. This is far deeper than emotions. This is who you are. Emotions can change. As a matter of fact, emotions do change. And that is one of the reasons we're so fickle when it comes to this concept of love. Because it is predicated on change when in actuality, when we speak of the love that we find in the scripture, it does not change. The question becomes, why is it then that we are not aware of this in the beginning? Well, our lack of awareness is because of how we have been taught. We have been taught that we are supposed to love God, we're supposed to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. But we have never been told what that looks like. And we hear these words being said to us, yet we are told in the same breath and by the same people that it is very difficult to love some folk because of what they do. This is love based on emotion and not based on creation. Love that is based on creation looks beyond what you do and see what you do if it's adversarial, it's an act that is committed by someone who is totally unaware of who they and do not realize the origin of their being. However, if there's an emotion, this is the type of love that has been created in the mind of men and not from the mind of our Creator. I want to go further with that in a few minutes, but right now I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions or comments? Anybody want to add to that, please? So part of this transformation that I speak of, this is the vibrational part of you, the soulful part of you, the you awakening that part of you that is that has rhythm with the universe. That is the part where the enlightenment comes in. That is the part of the womb being connected with wisdom. So you're pulling yourself together based on that rhythm, that vibration that you're feeling. And the more you feel it, the more it radiates, the more in tune you become, and the more you are attracted to it magnetically. You are drawn to that portion of yourself. So you are moving to a place that I am bigger than Ron. I am bigger than what is visual to be seen. And your thinking begins to change. Those emotions that we're talking about begins to change. And what you understand is your nurturing that we talked about when we talked about the mother-child experience. That nurturing has everything to do for your caring for others. It does not necessarily being led by that feeling or emotion, but a sincere desire for them to see who they are as well, a sincere desire to bring enlightenment to their lives. And it all starts with you doing it with you. So what you are doing as the I am is awakened in you, you are transforming those physical aspects of self that have been important to you. You're transforming them into the vibrational pull that you're feeling from the universe. And that part is universal. That part cannot be separated, meaning there is a physical body called Ron. There's a physical body called James Richard. But that part of James Richard, that part of Ron that is spiritual, that part that is seeking enlightenment, that part that becomes one with the universe, that part that is in rhythm with all that is universal. And it's that aspect that where I touch you, and it's that aspect where I touch self. There is a transformation from that. And a great example of it is, we mentioned this yesterday. I think the pastor talked about it. We were in three separate places. Before the pandemic, as far as our physical bodies, but the oneness, the unity that we feel now over the phones when we don't even see each other. I hope you feel the same way, but I feel closer to each and every one of you. And some of you, I don't even know if I've even met. So I don't know who's on this phone, but it doesn't matter. The energy that we come on these lines with, the desire to understand truth, the desire to transform and to be loved have made us one. And it is transforming us. And we are being stronger, not only to each other, but to our environment, to our neighbors, to the people around us. We are changing whether we know it or not. And it's done through your desire, through your compassion, through your mercy. Questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you spoke of the the idea of James Richard being in vibration, but it's more than that. I was looking at, actually, I was searching for the understanding of the Hebrew understanding of character, because that's the word I used yesterday. And in looking for that, I actually saw something that goes much further than what we call character. An example of what you talk about in regards to love, when we look at, well, let me say this and then I'll come back to that. Well, when we look at the idea of character, it involves our name, and name involves breath. And that's a discussion for a different time probably. However, it does tie in what you're talking about. When we look at the understanding of what we're talking about, when we talk about the Hebraic understanding of someone's name in relationship to leadership, it gives the idea that you cannot be an effective leader, you cannot be an effective teacher if you don't know what love is. Meaning that if you don't know who you are, if you don't understand the necessity in loving everyone without regard to their actions toward you or anyone else for that matter. In looking at this, what I saw was King David. The name David, David, means beloved or one who loves, and the word king, it speaks to one who rules. So the name David or David is not an identifier of the body, just as the name James is not an identifier of my body only. The name James in the Western vernacular simply identifies a physical being. However, if we look at the idea of name in relationship to the Hebrew, it goes far beyond an identifier. And those of us who think that we haven't been named haphazardly, you need to look up the meaning of your name, and you will find that your name identifies your character. It deals with your characteristics. In regards to King David, the name itself spoke to what David, who David is, and that is one who rules is one who loves. That's what King David means. It's saying that if you don't love, you cannot rule. You cannot lead if you don't love. And one of the problems that we have encountered, one of the major issues we've encountered in our religious settings is that we talk a lot about love, but have no idea of how to experience it. This is what I'm saying. When we talk about someone who we see as an adversary, we say, well, we're going to love them with the love of Jesus. Well, what does that mean? If you're going to love them with the love of Jesus, are you saying that you're going to love them like Jesus, but you're not Jesus, so you can't love them? The other way we look at that is, that's an enemy, that's an adversary, we go pray for them. Well, at that point, what you're subconsciously doing is giving yourself permission to pass off loving them to God, while you have these feelings about them that is short of loving them in spite of. The problem with that is our leadership has taught us that, because our leadership does not know how to experience the love of which we are speaking of in relationship to the love that grows out of this dark place. This love that is birthed from a deep desire to find out or to know who we are. Our leadership does not know what that means, and the reason I am so convinced of this is because of how the leadership has related to those who it leads in regards to this pandemic. The leadership has put in jeopardy the lives, the health, and the lives of those who are being led just to get them in the building, have convinced them that a love for God is reflected by attending sessions in a building without regard to the danger to our health or lives. Also, the leadership has said that if you trust God, if you love God, then you will show up. That is a type of guilting that is foreign to the scriptural understandings or the scripture teachings. So when we talk about the depth of love that we experience, it is at that point that our experience with this love gives us opportunity to share this experience by loving without regard to the actions that have been taken in regards to us. Also, this type of love is expressed by leadership when leadership says, I will do anything necessary to protect you, meaning that I, like David, I will put myself between you and that which seeks to harm you. And when leadership does that, what it does is leadership breaks that tie to that physical location. And leadership says it doesn't matter if we never come together physically again. What matters is that we understand we are the same people, we are the same entities who are expressive of love, whether we are in this building or not. Leadership does not put fellowship in jeopardy. Why? Because it loves. And when it loves, it removes all of the dangers that put in jeopardy those who are following. So I say all of this to say that when we speak of the roots of love itself, the expression of this love is done without regard to self, but it's done with those who are the recipients of this love in mind. And because it is our desire to have a shared experience or to share the experience of this type of love, we rise above those idiosyncrasies of others. We rise above the actions and the words of others in order for them to experience this love. And that's what is meant when the scripture speaks of love covering a multitude of entanglements. It is speaking to the idea that there is absolutely nothing that can alter the love that I have for you. It doesn't matter what you say or how you say it. It doesn't change my love for you, my love for humanity. And in fact, finally, it is also saying that if you do not desire this type of love, then you do not desire to know who you are. It is impossible to embrace who you are and not have the deepest desire possible to be expressive of love for everyone, as well as love for everything that is created. Does that make sense? Are there any questions or comments?
That makes sense. Questions or comments, y'all? Anybody? I want to, Pastor led me into where it go. He said, the deepest desire, or having the deepest desire. I'm going to read that verse to you one more time, and I'm going to talk about blessed are the merciful, so for they shall receive mercy. For now, he talked about the deepest desire. This word mercy, I'm take you back again and kind of come back to it. And I'm kind of say the same thing Pastor just said. I'm just going to tie it to this verse. I talked at the beginning about those vibrations and being in rhythm and moving to a place you've never experienced before, and being in that place and radiating with the universe. And we've said it before, guys. We say it all the time. I wish I could stay here before. All the time. I wish I could be here. You are there. You just don't always have the feeling, but you are there. That light is not going to go out in you. You receive that because you desire it. You have the deepest desire to see that. So when those types of love that Pastor talked about, some of them from a human perspective may be greater than others. But when you desire this, when you start to be in rhythm with the universe, when you recognize that I am the soul of the universe, and all of this comes together, then all of those aspects of love become one. All of that radiates inside of you. So blessed are the merciful. So what that recognizes, remember I told you it's attached to wisdom. What the wisdom says is his desire is to be greatness. His desire is to, in greatness, I'm equating to love of the universe. His desire is to give. His desire is to open up the universe for all of mankind. So what you become that for those who previously seemed to be unreachable. Those, the people in your life, the white supremacists that you've never been able to talk to, the person who is a gangster in the community that all he wants to do is kill and rob people, the drug dealers who seem to be just hell bent on being destructive. All those things and people that seem to have been out of reach before become in reach, and that it does not mean that you come in physical contact with them. It just means that you learn how to become love. You learn how to be prayer. You learn how to be meditation. You learn how to change that inward community into one, into enlightenment. And it radiates outside of you, and others recognize that. So all those things, those voices that bouncing all over the place inside of your heart and mind seems to quiet down, and they recognize the light. And they're yoked now with the enlightenment that is in you. And you become the radiate, you become the enlightenment for your community, for your neighborhood. And you become one. And all of that is noticed. So you desire to be mercy. And you become mercy for all that is around you. You become love. You become the nourishment for all that is around you and all that is in the universe. So we don't have to be together. I don't have to be in D.C. to touch a politician. All I need to do is desire. Because I mentioned that on yesterday. Feeling sometimes defeated and not being enough. But you are enough. I am enough. I am enough and you are enough. And together we make this into a reality. My desire is to be everything that I can be that God created in the earth. I want to be everything that He intended for the human to be. And when we reach that goal together, when we walk in that together, we become something that the earth cannot contain. So that's what we're talking about. the search for balance begins with love. It begins with this unconditional love, this mercy, this desire to be just pure light. And we move to a place where, again, you're not driven by the physical, we're not being led by the emotions that we're usually led by, that I may love you, but I don't care for you right now, but I still love. No, there's no such thing. You bringing balance inside of you help balance the universe. You balance that world outside of you. So I was hoping somebody else say something besides Pastor, just to make sure we're getting this. Is this making sense, y'all?
Yes, Ron. I just want to say, yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure how much more I have if we don't have any questions on this.
I have something. But if there's anyone else who has something to add or a question to raise, please do it right now. And then I can deal with it in a moment.
Yeah, good morning, Pastor. Ron, I just wanted to say what you mentioned earlier in reference to the tree of knowledge and good and evil. And, when we talk about evil, evil is just a fear, of not knowing. And when we're able to come into the knowledge of knowing our true self, as Elohim, then that takes away that fear because of knowing. And I think as we, continue to engage, in our time together, it's just given a sense of calm that it is resonating. And when we can begin to appreciate knowing, then that sometimes alleviate that evil because of a lack of understanding and not knowing. So I just wanted to share that thought in terms of just, what you're sharing in terms of we all are one yet many. And I think that it definitely resonates with me in terms of what you're saying. I just want to thank you.
Thank you, George. I appreciate that. And I agree with you as I move to a better place of understanding the evilness of the good and evil. It is something to be embraced. It is a tool to take us to enlightenment. It is a tool to bring us to a better place of understanding. So you're exactly right. And I love the direction that we move in. As evident, the energy you can feel from us talking together, or even coming on, just logging in on the phones. You feel that energy. So we're all moving to that place individually and collectively, and that is what is going to change the universe. So I mentioned something the other day, and I just want to add this and let someone else speak. I mentioned something that I don't think is coincidence. All the crimes that I see here, and I'm sure they're happening in every state, but I think I have become more sensitive to them, and I recognize that a lot seems to be going on in South Carolina. I do not think it's a coincidence. I think what the universe is trying to say to us is that you recognize who you are. See who you are. You are not helpless. You are not, you started as a desire for change, and now you have become change. Learn how to use your meditation. Don't be fearful, as George just said, of who you are. Walk in it. Walk in it, embrace it. And it doesn't mean that all those little voices have become one yet, but you are not where you were yesterday. So your desire has been heard. Your compassion for mankind has been recognized, and the universe is working with you and on your behalf to make changes. So take your breath and walk in who you are. That's what I'm hearing. So, and it's not just for South Carolina. I think that is just a wake up bell. That's just something for us to see. Okay. Any questions or comments about that?
Was someone else getting ready to speak? We have to make the conscious effort to be the manifestation of our experience of love, regardless of what we face or what we hear. We talk about wanting to see a manifested change or to see the manifestation of change. When we feel some kind of way about things, we are impeding the change that we're seeking. When we cease to feel some kind of way about people or actions, that's when we begin to see the manifestation of change. We talk about how we feel about certain events. So the question, I suppose, would be, how do we cease feeling some kind of way about people and actions in order for us to be the manifestation of change? How do we do that? Well, in reality, we know that breath plays a major role in our feelings. We think that our mind play a major role in our thoughts and feelings, but breath plays a far greater role in our minds and in our feelings, in our thoughts rather, and in our feelings. The mind may house the thoughts, may house the feelings, but breath teaches us how to express those feelings, teaches us how to control those emotions. Breath teaches us or gives us a sense of peace, and breath gives us the intestinal fortitude to persevere. It gives us the strength to rise above those feelings that we have, those feelings that get in our way. How does breath do that? We are well aware how it does it, even though we may not think about it. When we get frustrated, what are we told to do? Take a deep breath. When we get emotional about something and that those emotions begin to control us rather than the reverse of that, what do we say? Take a deep breath. Take your time and breathe. Breath is teaching at that moment. When we are upset or angry, when we want to settle down and bring this sense of peace to the forefront, what do? Take time to breathe. So breath gives us the space that's necessary for us to become the change that we are seeking. Breath is a primary teacher in every event in our lives, because it is with our breath that we are able not only to enter a state of emotion, a state of meditation, but also to alter the emotions that we are experiencing, to control those emotions, to bring them to a place of balance. It helps us to remind ourselves that we are indeed loved. And the practice of this is something that gets us to a space where we are able to control the emotions to hold on to our peace without even thinking about it. It becomes a natural thing for us. However, if we think for a moment that our mind is going to do it, it never happens. Because the very thoughts that evoke the emotions or the anger or the feeling some kind of way are housed in our mind. But it is the breath that purifies that mind. It's the breath that purifies the thoughts. By simply stopping and taking a breath. And in doing so, it also balances the nerves, or the nerve in our body that causes our body to respond to certain thoughts and certain messages and emotions. The autonomic nerves began to calm themselves. When we breathe, or when we take a deep breath and embrace the reality of who and what we are in relationship to being created by Elohim. Being created by Elohim, it means that not only are we that likeness, but we are filled with the attributes that Elohim has as well. And it is up to us to make sure that the attribute of unrightness, of evilness, is one of those things that doesn't control us, but we are dominant over it in order to bring it to the place of rightness. And this is how we become the change that we are seeking. We don't feel some kind of way about Biden or DeSantis. We embrace what's happening. And our desire, our manifested desire, is for balance, for humanity, is to heal the mind, the soul, heal the mind, heal the thoughts of those who have a depraved mind, so that that depravity will no longer be an adversary to humanity. Instead of us feeling some kind of way about DeSantis, our feelings toward DeSantis should be one of the type that Jesus had. When Jesus said, "O Israel, how I have longed to gather you under my wings, as a hen gathers her brood." That's how we should feel about a DeSantis, about a Biden, that's how we should feel about a McConnell. The desire to gather them under our wings. Why? Why does the hen gather her brood under her wings? In order to protect them from environmental dangers. Gathering a DeSantis under our wings gives him opportunity to be healed from the from a depraved mind. And the gathering also allows the energy force that we are to permeate the environment that type of mind lives in, so that not only is the depraved mind changed, but the environment that nurtured that type of mind is also changed, thus bringing us to the place where we have created space for change in the entirety of humanity. Any questions or comments about that And I certainly hope that it makes sense to you. I'm done.
Do me a favor. We have, and you talked about this before, but we've moved from a place of seeing religious type prayer to a place of meditation. Talk about meditation for a minute in relationship to love and how we are to use our desires. Because you mentioned breath and made me think about meditation. Just kind of tie all that in together and talk about that, because I think that's where we are now. We're not just the universe is showing us so much, and I think the action part is here, and it's not going out picketing or jumping in the car doing anything. It's through meditation. It's through breath. And can you speak to that for just a minute, please?
What we have been doing, I do believe, is meditating in search of self. If you have embraced who you are, then our meditations should now be focused or directed towards the embracing in terms of taking those under our wings who don't know who they are, embracing them in that manner, and being expressive of the love experiences that we have, and sharing those expressions or those experiences with those who have a reprobate or depraved mind. It's different than praying in the classical sense of prayer, because in actuality, praying is the calling of words, and the words that we say when we pray are words that we think of. However, meditation is not something that we think of based upon our environmental experiences. Meditation is an inward search for what is necessary to enhance the desire for peace within the body of humanity. We have talked about prayer and prayed for so long and so much until it has become a religious ritual without any effect whatsoever, because Jesus clearly said to us, don't be like the hypocrites who think that praying is the multiplying of words. Jesus clearly tells us, when you pray, go into your closet. When you meditate, go into yourself, into that inner being. Free yourself from the distractions that are external, and focus on the internal, with a desire to know you. And when you know you, your desire then goes beyond the knowing of you. It begins then to be an effort to have intercourse with all of those who are depraved in mind, so that you can impregnate them with balance, a desire for balance, and help them to see what the experience of love looks like. And that does not take a physical contact with them, being in their presence. It simply takes a desire, because without them knowing it, they too are one with the universal mind. And what happens is, when we meditate, when it's our desire to embrace those type of this type of depravity, then our energies goes to those places, enters those places, those spaces in the universal mind that needs to be healed. It does not enter the space where those who know who they are, what they are. It enters the spaces of the environmental dangers. And when we do that, it is no different than saying, if one of you call me and you tell me you need to talk to me, or whatever you say you need, and someone else other than you who don't know who they are calls me, I am going to go to them first. Why? My priorities shifted to the one who was a lost sheep as opposed to the sheep who knows who it is. This is a spiritual way of doing that. It is an effective way of bringing about change and altering the direction that this nation, this world is traveling in. Removing it from the pathway of destruction and bringing it to the pathway of reconstruction. Have given it the opportunity to live in experience of loving kindness and showing extreme mercy to those who need it the most. Is that what you were searching for, Ron? Or are there any questions, comments about this?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Pastor.
I want to ask you if it's clear, that's all.
It's clear, Pastor, but I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So based on what you just described, I guess what that calls to mind for me is, do we have the ability to live from a meditative or live in a meditative state? And what I mean by that, the scripture says that we are to pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Jesus Christ for you. And that's 1 Thessalonians 5 and 16, rather. So I know we talk about breathing, and I now don't even find myself saying I will pray for you or I'll pray with you. I find myself saying I will breathe with you through this situation that you may be going through, because I now understand the power of breath. But usually when we think of meditation, we talk about going inside of myself, getting into that quiet place and breathing and focusing on breath and becoming one with everything. So based on everything you just said, my question now becomes, do I have the ability to do that on a continuous basis, even when I'm not just sitting down, being still, and focusing all of my energies on breathing? Does that question make any sense? Are you understanding what I'm asking?
I do indeed, and it does make sense. When we meditate and focus on our breath and search of ourselves, that's one thing. However, when you find yourself, then what is the need in the continuation of meditating based upon what you need or what you're going through? When you find yourself, when you know who you are, there's no need to meditate about what you're going through, because our Creator knows all about us without us saying that. We talk about being able to get through our circumstances more easily when we help other people get through theirs. So in this meditative state, when we project ourselves to the depravity in our society, it is at that point that we are dealing with our circumstances by dealing with others. to the question of, are we able to live in a meditative state on a continuous basis? Absolutely. Not only because of what Paul wrote in Thessalonians, but more importantly, because of what Jesus said. The Father and I are one. If you are one with the Father, you are in that state. And a way of knowing when you are in a continuous meditative state is asking yourself, how do the circumstances that are adversarial to society, how do you feel when you hear about them? What type of emotion, if any, do you experience when you hear about them? Do you feel some type of way? Or do you recognize immediately that this is being shown so that we will know what to deal with and see that we have not gotten to that place of balance yet? And immediately, the focus shifts to the depravity in the society so that it can be repurposed. The energy of that depravity can be repurposed for something that is ripened, something that is good and righteous. Does that help you, Kathy?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Good morning. This is Barbara. Good afternoon. In addition to what you just said, we need to look at ourselves as well and how we deal with circumstances that might be adverse to what we expect. And if we're finding ourselves being able, as you say, to deal with them, that they don't become mountains for us, that they can loom as mountains, but do we deal with them as mountains? In other words, it's all back to the certainty of understanding who you are and walking in that, as Ron said. You understand who you are, and that's when you deal with whatever comes your way. And that doesn't mean that the voices don't come, because I have had the voices recently. But the issue is not let them overtake you and to put them back where they belong. In other words, you need the voices, but they don't need to be directive of how you respond. You need to respond in the way that you know you need to as Elohim. And so not only are those outside circumstances that we look at on TV or outside of ourselves in the public, but internally those things that come to be adverse against us, we've got to deal with it in the very same way. And so you are in a continual meditative state when you're able to do that. You don't use reactive kinds of means anymore to deal with stuff. In other words, it's responsive kinds of things. And in dealing responsively, that means you choose the way that you can respond to something rather than reacting to something and letting the emotions take over, if that resonates.
It does. But don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself.
Exactly.
What you're really feeling. Yeah. Because honestly, there are times when you are taking this journey to a continuous being in a continuous meditative state, that you face adversities. Don't lie to yourself and say, well, I'm not going to deal with that. No. Sometimes you need to call somebody to help you get through it. We are indeed our brother's keeper. we are the fence around each other. We are the protector to give you the space without distraction to get to where you desire to be. So please, above all, do not lie to yourself and try and make it an effort to convince yourself that what you're feeling is not what you're feeling.
Questions or comments, y'all? Good discussion. Good question. Good input.
I just had a thought too, Ron, based on what Pastor said. And the scripture says, "Thou, Lord, art a shield about me. You're my glory and the lifter of my head." What he just said is that is what we are to be to each other, if I heard him correctly.
Pastor?
You did hear me correctly. And each other, now this each other is very important. Because each other, yes, those of us who are on this journey together, by all means, yes. Because that's what Jesus did with the disciples. That's an example of that. But each other also is with the Sanctus in Florida. Be a fence around him so that the energy of the fence can penetrate his heart, his thoughts, because heart is thoughts, right? So it can penetrate his thoughts and alter his universe, which means that the environment that he lives in will also be altered. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
Just out of curiosity,
I believe that.
quick
Go ahead.
question. What did the Florida governor do? I mean, I know he's not great, but I'm just wondering if there's something in particular that you're thinking of.
Yeah, he refused to allow mask mandates in the schools, and the schools are defying him. And he's going to take the money from the schools who have mask mandates.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
So that's now, that's one of the reasons that we need to at least periodically watch the news, see what's going on, so we can deal with it. Well, where we are now, we are at the place where the universe is saying to us, you have spoken concerning change. You have expressed your desires for balance. You have expressed your experience with love and your desire to share the experience with all of humanity. In order for you to be able to do that, you must desire to be in a meditative state constantly with the same depth of desire for love. You must be the experience of love for those who, in the vernacular of a man, are unlovable. The leadership in this nation, the leadership in this world dictates the response of the society that it leads. The influences in this world must take under its wings the leadership of this world in order for society to change. Israel, Palestine, the land, Israel, the people, the people were different under the leadership of David than they were under the leadership of Saul. Not because the people changed, but the leadership changed, and that's what changed the people. When Saul was removed, the people changed. Why? Because of the prophetic utterances that were in line with the desires of our Creator for humanity. We are the prophetic voices of change. And the loudest prophetic voice that has ever been heard has not verbally uttered anything. The loudness of the voice has been in the depth of his desires. The deafening silence is the speaking of the heart. We who travel this journey are the influences of this universe. It is on our shoulders to speak loud without saying a word. It is incumbent upon us to be the voices that are heard but not saying a word. And the hearing of these voices are reflected in the change in the actions of those who have been leading based upon depraved thoughts and desires. That's where we are. Questions or comments?
I like it. Questions or comments, anyone? I want to say something, and I think, well, I don't think, I know that when I say this, I speak for pastors and all the teachers, and probably everybody on this phone. But on the 3 days that we have our lessons, I won't call them Bible studies, our life lessons, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays, a lot of thought goes into that, not so much in length of time as in meditation and desire. No lesson that we have done, at least since we've been on this phone, and probably beyond that, but I'm just going to concentrate on that right now, has been haphazardly done. We look at where we are, what is needed, and how we're to go about it. So even when you hear someone say something and pastor say, can you expound on that tomorrow? It's because it resonates as to where we are, and it's what's needed at that time. And sometimes the person says, okay, I'll do it, may not even know where that additional information is going to come from, but it comes. Why? Because the person trusts that it'll come. His desire, his or her desire, is there to bring enlightenment to us in this day and time, to help us to move forward in our transformation, and that's individually and collectively. Okay, so why do I bring that up? The meditation that we speak of is for each and every one of us, and there is no mistake in how to do it. Meaning that you may say, I have a desire for change. I want to be loved. I want to see that means you're already there. That desire takes you there. And when you move to that place, that desire is what's going to bring you enlightenment. It is not something that you have to readily prepare for or go and read something or do any type of, chanting of words. You are the product of change. You are. So a lot of the chaos that we speak of, that you've heard me speak of around here, we talked about a new dimension coming in. And the old dimension, the old God of selfishness and greed and oneness is fighting to hold this place. And we are going to peace and love and inclusiveness and unity and sharing. And that is what we're ushering in. So trust those feelings and emotions. Trust that love and that compassion. Trust that those vibrations that you feel inside of you. And as been said on numerous occasions, but was echoed today, trust your breath. Trust your breathing. But that's where we are right now. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Any other questions or comments?
Ron.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I want to reiterate something. The reason I ask you to let me know if there is something that you have been shown, again, is not because I want to approve it. That's not it at all. I just want to know so that I will know who will facilitate in our next session. That's all. And I would be most appreciative if you would do that. Give me a call or send me a text message, okay? That's all, Ron.
Thank you. If there are no more questions or comments, I think that's all we have for today. Any other thoughts or comments that you may have? Okay, I hope this has made sense. If not, as always, we're always open for questions. And until tomorrow, have a great day. And again, thank you everyone who offered input, okay? Have a good day.
Thank
You
you.
too, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Ron. Bye, everybody.